Who will win Game 7 tonight in the Garden? Will the Cavaliers be threatened at all in the Eastern Conference Finals? What does the Kawhi injury mean to the Spurs' chances against the Warriors? The only question left is, say it with me, you win. Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown podcast. And we're also simulcast on Periscope live on a wonderful Sunday night, Mother's Day, joined as always by Coach Dave Dufour. Dave, we have some games to talk about. Yeah,
some really interesting games. We've got Game 6 of the Celtics Wizards to break down, and of course Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals from today. And then we're going to get to talk about Game 7 with the Wizards and Celtics tomorrow. Spoiler alert, but the Wizards won the other night, just as we predicted.
Yes, and we have a nothing easy, baby, Game 7. They did win, but it didn't look like in the first 3 quarters that anybody wanted to win this game. It was like a real, just a really frustrating experience. Did you feel the same way?
It was so ugly. It was so ugly. For 45 minutes, it was just terrible basketball. The offenses both looked like clogged toilets.
Yeah.
It sucked. But then that last 3 minutes made the slog of the first 45 minutes well worth it, because that last 3 minutes was electric. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, back and forth, they kind of finally figured some things out. There were some defensive issues, though, that I know, like Brad Stevens might go back and be like, what happened there? Like there was a Morris three-pointer in the left corner that I have in my mind's eye right now where Marcus Smart it was a really great play where Smart, though, gets sucked in one pass away on his drive, but then Gortat still was able to backscreen him, so he had even no chance of recovery. He would have recovered anyway, but no chance. And Gortat's man couldn't get anywhere near him either. That was crucial to get everything going. And those are the little things, when you get down in the crunch time, you have to have that execution. If you don't, then you ain't going to win. Like one of those plays for 3 minutes ago could decide the game.
Well, just to kind of compare, how the Celtics broke down to how the Wizards really took the game. John Wall, it might have been the next play down. I don't know. It's been a long day, but it might have been the next play down. But he blocked a three-pointer from the corner. So they gave up a three at one end. And then they had a wide open, what looked like a wide open three blocked in the other corner. And so next thing you know, there's a 6-point swing, right? The Wizards made plays when they needed them. And, the Celtics didn't make enough plays. I mean, as evidenced by the final score, right?
Yeah.
Al Horford with the luckiest bank shot I've ever seen in my life. So lucky. But he made the shot. And then the Wizards come down and, we've been kind of singing Scotty Brooks' praises for most of this season. I need to criticize him a little bit. First of all, John Wall should have played the entire fourth quarter. I mean, he sat for the first couple minutes, and it was bad. Any minutes that John Wall's sitting are bad minutes for the Wizards. He needs to be playing 44 minutes a night. They got to sneak him rest when they can, but he needs to be in there, especially in crunch time. And for them, crunch time in that game started the minute the fourth quarter started.
Right.
But that sideline out of bounds to basically on the game winner by John Wall, there was no play there.
Right.
John Wall just made that happen. They were threatening a 5-second violation. John Wall streaks up the sideline closest to the inbounder. It's a really hard pass. That's a difficult pass to make. It's a hard pass to catch. Mm-hmm. And he catches the ball and then just dribbles into what wound up being a wide open three. It was beautiful. I mean, it was a beautiful shot, and it was a huge shot for John Wall. But Scotty Brooks has got to do better. When you're
yeah. Well, I think it was a good contest, though. I kind of want to look at it one more time, but right, that was a tough shot.
It was fun. It was a tough shot, but I mean, John Wall elevated, got up, really got a good look at the basket. I mean, of course, he was shooting a deep three too, so
right.
That kind of helped a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they were expecting him to just take that three.
Right.
That was a Sam Cassell big balls three.
Yeah. Double check, something or other.
What was that?
Double check.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I don't know.
It was huge, and Yeah, I mean, it was fantastic play by Wall. But, when you're contrasting what Scotty Brooks was doing end of game, after timeouts, on the sideline and baseline out of bounds with Brad Stevens, who might be the best after timeout, sideline and baseline out of bound, play caller in the NBA, like Brooks has got to step it up. Yeah. He's got to put these guys in a better position to succeed.
Well, we'll find out, because you know what happens in a Game 7 on the road, and that's when you really start to see the cracks and whether or not they can execute under pressure. Because, that last out-of-bounds play, right, it was an afterthought that John Wall just sort of was like, oh, I better break up and try and get the ball because nothing else was happening. It is weird, and it's strange when pro coaches kind of have that issue where all of a sudden it just doesn't look like they called anything or the players weren't prepared at this point in the season. So I tweeted this out a couple times now during both games 5 and 6, where I said, I wonder what the Cavaliers are feeling watching these games, and everyone responded with the LeBron James dancing in the locker room thing with his shirt off, and I think that that's right. I don't think that they're looking at this feeling at all worried about anything.
Yeah, LeBron's got to be feeling pretty good, But we've said this all along. The Wizards match up way better than the Celtics with the Cavs, and so while the Cavs are probably going to beat whoever, I think they sweep the Celtics. I think that the Wizards probably take a game, maybe 2. Right. It's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. But they're just more well suited to attack in transition. But that bench is atrocious. It's not going to get any better. So I'm sure that LeBron and the Cavs are just, I don't even think. I bet they're not even watching these games.
Right. I mean, I think LeBron is a basketball file. He would probably watch him. So, but I don't know what you're going to make of this, because it's a different series too. Like the Wizards can struggle and not look as good against the Celtics for different reasons, and all of a sudden they could, in theory, look better against the Cavs for other just for reasons of matchups and the way that the teams fit together. But as of now, it just doesn't feel like either the Celtics or the Wizards are really playing at their best. Right? It's just wild swings across the board here in a way that you like to see more out of those teams, this late in the season.
Again, the lack of a bench for the Wizards. With the Celtics, it's just like their play has just been so inconsistent. Particularly, we talked about this a little bit before we got started. Like Marcus Smart just sometimes makes some real boneheaded plays on the defensive end, and it's crazy because he's regarded as a good defender. I mean, the eye test says he's a good defender, but I feel like he gets like 2 or 3 moments a game where he's either looking for an opportunity to flop, right, and then blows it that way. And I mean, I guess he does it on both ends with the flopping. Like sometimes it gets a little extreme. And look, I'm the kind of person that you look for every advantage you can get, and of course the referees, that's a huge advantage. They will often call these flops, but sometimes I think that when you're searching for a flop, you're searching for fouls the way he does. Yeah, it kind of does a disservice to your team. Like better to just be in good position than to try to draw a charge and give up like a floater, or like we talked about before when he left Morris in the corner, helping one pass away. You just cannot do that.
Absolutely. I'm kind of looking because he was involved in the play where the Celtics ran a high pick and roll with 1:17 to go, I think, and they blasted Isaiah into the left corner. And, I see. Yeah, it was Marcus Smart's. Well, Smart kind of didn't go where Isaiah Thomas assumed he would go, which would have been sort of 45-degree angle, like in between him and the basket, which is kind of where you want to go. That's an easier pass to slip through a double team. And Smart kind of froze. Now, Porter comes flying out of there with another great read, and probably gets a hand on that pass at the very least anyway. But those are the kind of things, that you kind of I don't know about Smart's like spatial awareness. I feel like sometimes he doesn't sort of the angles don't always become clear to him, and that's a guy that they're relying on to really do well. But at the very least, I think out of this whole series, the Celtics should take heart because they're seeing something from Rozier, right? There's something.
Rozier looks great.
Yeah,
he looks really good.
And this is the most pressure-filled situation he's probably been in, and this will really help. And Jaylen Brown has had another few moments as well. So there's something to, they have their hands full going into the offseason because they have so many picks and they got to deal with all this stuff that's going on with the rosters. But at least they have some cheap young guys that, I feel like they could plug right in there and continue at least where they are now into next year.
Oh, certainly, and and then they've got that Brooklyn pick, the mythical Brooklyn pick. Who knows what they're going to do with it? But like we're already doing a postmortem on them, and Game 7 is tomorrow.
Right.
So who do you got? Who do you have? I'm sticking with my pick.
It's really hard to choose against the home team in a Game 7. Although I feel like that isn't it said now that like the home court advantage isn't as strong as it used to be?
In this series, the home team has won every game.
Okay. So, it's hard. Hard for me to picture, the Celtics not winning that game just for the virtue of it. Neither of these players, as far as I could tell, have had any Game 7 experience. Right? I don't think so. I can't think of it.
Off the top of my head, no. I'm sure that. I feel like Horford probably lost a Game 7 in Atlanta.
Yeah, in Atlanta, maybe, right. Yeah. But certainly, I don't think anybody else. So that doesn't really apply. So I don't know. I mean. Do the Wizards ride that momentum of this big win that was sort of an ugly game that didn't play well in and they kind of stole it? Yeah, I don't know.
I think you're reading my mind here.
Well, hey, yeah.
So the Wizards figured out a few things. One, you can trap a small guard.
Oh yeah,
pretty easily, and they started doing that toward the end of Game 6, and I expect to see that, that tactic deployed a little bit more and probably early. Try to get Isaiah Thomas sped up, try to get him to cough the ball up, get him out of his comfort zone, do some things that are a little bit, it's not normal to see that in the NBA. You don't get a whole lot of trapping at half court and things like that. So, although the Cavs did have great success against the Raptors with it. So, if the Celtics do win tomorrow, they'll have to deal with that. But I would expect to see some trapping early. And honestly, I feel like it just feels like one of those games where the Celtics are going to come out and just crap the bed. And I don't know why. I don't know why I feel that way. Maybe I'm still riding high. I was shit talking my dog after John Wall hit that shot. Like I was fired up. You and I have been kind of, leading the charge that on the John Wall bandwagon, and it was just really great to see him, in a clutch moment like that, get a chance to hit a big shot. And so like I'm still riding that momentum. I think he will be too. And I think the Wizards are going to win. I think they're going to win by double digits.
Wow. All right. Well, those are bold words. I mean, I kind of want them to win just so I think that it's a better series in the conference finals. And I think that if that's anything means, that's what I want to see. Yeah. So, well,
but we know I'm bad at predictions. So.
We'll find out. We'll find out tomorrow. We'll be on it all over that, and it kind of reminds me of the Wizards and the fact that Michael Jordan played for the Wizards, and I just did a video today which it compared Michael Jordan to LeBron James, and people are really digging it. And we have these new shirts that we were selling that are this really cool design of Michael and LeBron that you can order in different colors and stuff. So you got to make sure to check that out. Is for sure. It'll be really cool stuff. So. Should we move on to the next game?
Yes. Let's talk about this game.
Okay, let's talk about it.
A little bit of controversy. Just a little bit.
You want to go there right away?
I do want to go there right away because it kind of took over Twitter today.
Yeah, Draymond should not have gotten that first tee.
I agree. I agree with you. I think it was weird. It looked like the referee was saying that he kind of like stood over him and said something. I think it seemed like Draymond was just happy to get the call. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't standing there like the referee was, but I just feel like, let these guys talk a little bit. Just relax. Everything's fine. And but okay, so let's I guess kind of recap the game for people who I can't believe anyone would be listening to this that didn't watch it. But the Spurs had an amazing first half at both ends of the court. Kawhi Leonard was just insane. He was hitting everything. LaMarcus Aldridge looked like an all-star again. Those two guys were incredible. The Warriors, on the other hand, were doing nothing. They didn't hit their first three-pointer until 19 minutes into the game or something. It was rough. It was a rough start for that team. The second half was a different story. And obviously the Warriors came back, win the game. And, Kawhi goes out with the ankle injury. First, he stepped on someone's foot on his own bench and kind of tweaked the ankle, and it looked really bad. And then he landed on Zaza Pachulia's foot. Now, everyone knows about Bruce Bowen and, you know, the sticking the foot under the jump shooter. This didn't seem like it was done on purpose to me. He was closing out, right? The guy's 7 feet tall and weighs 260 pounds or whatever he weighs. He's closing out on the shooter, okay?
Yeah.
And he's looking away. He's following the ball, and he takes an extra step to gather himself. You know, you would have to be some kind of ballerina, and I don't know what's another really a ninja maybe to be coordinated enough at that size to guess where the guy's going to land. Right. You know, I mean, and Kawhi was fading out of bounds too. So that's the other thing is like a lot of people keep saying, well, Kawhi was fading away. Okay, so then it makes more sense that Zaza would be getting closer to his body to defend the shot.
Right.
You know, you just have to do it. And so, I mean, maybe the people that think it was dirty just haven't played basketball recently.
Yeah.
They've forgotten. I don't know. But to me, it looked fine. Now, you don't want it to happen. Like, it's terrible that it happens, but that play, I didn't think that it looked dirty at all.
Right.
It's just bad luck.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'm on the way in here because I mean it's happened to me. I've had that happen where you rise up for a jump shot and then the guys contest and you land on his foot. But it's I would say it's virtually impossible if you're trying to be dirty. Like if your head is turned the other way and you're still trying to figure out where that foot is going to land. And I'm choosing to believe that he did not do that. On purpose. It's just like I just can't. It's hard to look at. And you know what? We should get the video out of Bruce Bowen doing it because I think it's clear he tried to do that or whatever. Because I bet you we're going to see a lot different. He's probably closing out straight at him and not from the side. And you're able to measure the guy up a little bit better that way, get closer, and like you jump early. Like Zaza jumped early to contest. It wasn't like he jumped really late so that he could be there, or like kind of jumped out late so that his foot would be there on time to land on it. So either way, it's unfortunate because Kawhi already has a balky ankle. He didn't roll it that hard on Pachulia's foot, it looked like.
The other play, I think it was compounded because when he stepped on David Lee's foot on the bench.
So in reality, like that's the only reason why this is really a problem is that because it was from the game before and from David Lee's foot, like he just keeps doing it. And Lord knows I know this way too well. Once you sprain that foot and that ankle, it's insanely painful after that. No matter what
unstable and unstable.
And by the way, I think he must have heard it before the original injury when he stepped in Houston because it never looked that severe to me. But he reacted so violently that it had to have already been hurting him. And we know that Spurs are famous for simply not allowing anyone to know anything about their injuries unless it's completely obvious. Well, and so,
I think part of this is the narrative around the Warriors, right? Everybody wants to hate the Warriors because, and I posted this, if you go to my Twitter feed, I just retweeted a video of this. LaMarcus Aldridge closed out on a Curry jumper, and Curry landed on his foot, and no one's calling that dirty. If Zaza, there was nothing unnatural about the way that Zaza moved. Whereas when you go back and you watch Bruce Bowen, or you watch Jalen Rose, trying to get Kobe, they're sticking their foot out. Like this was Zaza. Like Zaza is just a big guy, and they can't stop on a dime. Again, I don't know that it wasn't dirty, but it didn't look inherently dirty. And the idea that anyone can watch that and say, well, that's definitely dirty, I just don't believe it. So,
well, the only way that you can really know if it's dirty or not is if you're at the game. And, the best way to get to the game is if you actually use this app called SeatGeek because it's the best place to get tickets. Dave, have you ever used SeatGeek?
I use SeatGeek all the time. I really do.
Go figure. Yeah, it really is great because you get to see the vantage point from the seats, and it gives you a grade whether or not it's a good value or not. And if you could, you spend enough money, you'd be right there in front of that bench. You could see whether or not, and you can hear if Zaza said something to him as he fell down. And it's a great way to do it. So I can't recommend SeatGeek enough. And if you use my code BBall, you can get $20 off your first purchase. And so those courtside seats might not cost as much if you use that code of mine, BBall for SeatGeek. So definitely,
they're still going to cost a lot. Yeah. They're still going to cost a lot. But
right. They'll cost an arm and a leg, but you never know. $20 will save you something, half of a parking space perhaps. But absolutely. So don't forget that, sports fans. If you want to try it out, SeatGeek, use my code BBall and save some money and make us all look good. Friend of the program, SeatGeek. So. Let's talk a little bit about the Warriors and how they started, because that's what I want to talk about. You know, people are going to say, "Oh, you're just an excuse that they hadn't played for how many days had they not played for?" 10?
They had a long time off. It was like 6 days.
Almost a week or whatever it was, a long time. So you can pretty much guarantee they're going to be rusty no matter what. Like, that was a guarantee, even though everyone's going to say, oh, it's an excuse, BS, whatever. It's kind of a fact. Like, it happens too often now. Plus, you throw in the fact that it's an early game, which is like this weird time. And then, of course, the Spurs didn't have that issue because the game started early. But the Spurs just played in a tough series with no timeout. They were ready to go.
And their body clock is 2 hours ahead. So for the Spurs, it was like 2:30 in the afternoon, which is a little bit closer to a normal, start time. It's closer.
Yes.
But like LeBron complained about this in Game 1 against Toronto. He was like, it was maybe too many days off. He didn't feel like they were clicking. And I would bet that the Cavs have a similar issue when they come back. To me, the first thing is, like, you're not as sharp, not just your shooting, but your ball movement, your passing, things like that. But the cardio, the in-game action is so hard to replicate, and running on a treadmill doesn't do it. Just out there running sprints doesn't do it. And I think Draymond looked gassed in the first half tonight.
Yeah. And he looked like he looked so out of sync, and he was throwing away passes that were so bad, live ball turnovers. I mean, it was really just, and the reason why I want to be brutal on Draymond is because it's so out of character for the way he played now, and he almost pulled the whole team out of the game with for losing his shit there. Although again, like we said, I don't think he deserved that tech, but he was sort of out of control and jumping all over the place and running around and screaming and yelling. And he's the only guy I know that can kind of appear to be losing control and yet still make a great pass right after that or hit a shot after that. It's some weird mojo he's got. But that's the thing, is that they probably won't start off again that way, even though the defense was good and sound.
The Spurs defense was really good. I mean, so not to take anything away, or we're not trying to take anything away from what the Spurs did. But we're just trying to come up with why the Warriors were missing a lot of open looks. I mean, Clay was really bad tonight.
Yeah.
And so, but the Spurs defense was good, but I think it was a combination of the two that made the Warriors stink as bad as they did, right? Like, it wasn't just the Spurs defense, and it wasn't just the long layoff or them being out of sync. It was the combination of the two. It was kind of a perfect storm.
Yeah. And although, here's the other thing that's interesting, is that we've talked about the low post split. I've done videos, we do vines, and stuff all the time, and you can picture it. Steph Curry dribbles the ball on the wing, throws it to Draymond in the low post, or it could be KD, and then he goes and hits a screen near the elbow or near the break at the three-point line for Clay, who comes around. And they split off of that, and one guy backdoors, one guy flares, so you get a whole lot of action off of that. It makes it very difficult to guard. And I don't think I saw it very much at all in the first half. And
what else we didn't see?
What?
You know what else we didn't see? We didn't see any pick and roll at all.
Pick and roll. Yeah.
And then second half comes around and you start getting these. I mean, Steph has a huge second quarter. KD was, incredible in that second half. Yeah. And a lot of it was coming off pick and roll.
Yeah. But here's what's frustrating, is that it shouldn't take you into halftime to adjust to that. That should be a game plan that's already set up. So I don't know what happened there when they were getting prepared for the game. Like, they could have scripted the first 10 possessions and had it all set up. And it just was very uncharacteristic as well from the coaching standpoint. And it very, very strange. I could not follow that. Now, I know that it got out of hand early. Maybe that's why Ian Clark got no run, but they were having trouble scoring. I would think throw him in there, give him some energy, get some cutting. Maybe he gets hot because the other guys weren't. It was a very strange thing, and then suddenly they, and by the way, in the halftime you saw, right, who was there?
Steve Kerr.
Right. So Steve Kerr is in the locker room now and supposed to be out of the arena, watching the game and giving him his notes and telling the guys. And it made a bit, right? Something happened in that locker room that changed the entire tenor of the game in the third quarter before Kawhi got hurt.
Yeah, all right. So the other thing, that kind of bugged me, but now in hindsight, knowing that Iguodala was hurt, we didn't get to see. I mean, they have the best lineup in basketball, and we didn't even get to see it. It was 0 minutes in the first half. And I think that toying around, playing these cute, lineups, like the rotational stuff that they were doing tonight. Like, David West was bad. Okay, so get him out of there, right? It's the playoffs and it's the conference finals, and you don't have time to be cute. Play your best players. You know, there was a long time there where Steph and KD were both out. They were both out. The Warriors were rolling with both of them in. They were rolling with one of the guys in, and then they were both out, and it just started to fall apart again. And look, there is no excuse. There's just no excuse to not have one of those two guys on the court at all times. Klay is better with both of those guys on the court. I mean, the way I would stagger it is I would actually have it so that, you know, KD is the guy who's running those second units and not trying to play Livingston, Iguodala, Draymond, Klay, and David West. I'm sorry, that's not going to cut it.
No, yeah, they had some weird lineups out there that were really troubling. And you know what's interesting is that so Klay was 2 for 11 in 39 minutes out there, and 1 for 3 from three. He wasn't getting a lot of shots, and he wasn't hitting them either, and he looked terrible. But that said, I did detect, you know, in that last down the stretch when they got a couple rebounds in a row, and you could picture maybe so Steph gets an offensive rebound, has Klay Thompson wide open on top, and instead skips it to KD, who I think misses it, and then it goes back to Curry, who then gets the three. I think that was the sequence.
That was the possession that he got 2 offensive rebounds.
Yes, right. And basically, you know, I was really glad to see that Klay cheered when Curry hit that three, because it was clear in my mind that he completely said, no, I'm not going to give it to you. And, you know, shooters don't like that at all. No. But, you know, I think Klay also realized it too. He probably was like, dude, I'm terrible today. It's okay. Don't, you know, I'm sure you guys want to be out there for you. But by the way, it was great to see the next possession. They ran him off of a pin down. He got open for a three, didn't take it because, again, Klay was already a little bit gun shy. Drives and then finds Draymond. He's driving to his left, finds Draymond, a nice little slip pass down down low for a little layup. That was a really great play and vital. And in a way that Klay was able to find a way to contribute, even though he was so bad with the shooting. But that is the one thing that I think is interesting, is that he seems to be the guy that doesn't quite fit all the time for some reason. You know, this year.
Yeah, I mean, but you wouldn't think that in the regular season,
right? I guess. I'm just thinking out loud here, like into the future, like what's going on, who's really happy about their role and that kind of stuff. And I feel like Klay might end up being that guy who wouldn't be.
Well, the economics may take care of that. You know, like, I mean, someone on Twitter, you know, was talking about how they're going to wind up trading Klay and getting like Anthony Davis or someone like that. And I mean, that would be like, yeah, oh man, people would be pretty pissed at that. So.
Yeah, that would be that would be weird. I mean, that would be interesting to trade, but nonetheless. So anyway, so we have a lot of things going on here, and it really is sad that we are going to get deprived of, you know, a game 2 at least with Kawhi, and I suppose he's going to try and come back for game 3, and the miracle of modern science might allow him to actually be good, because he looked unstoppable when he was in there. Really,
yeah.
Like, they had no answer for him.
And well, so I think that a lot of people are anxiously awaiting the results of this MRI. You know, it's always, I don't know if, you know, anybody listening has ever had a severe ankle injury. They are really, really difficult to come back from. I mean, you know, you're talking like a year later. And I know, like, you know, we've talked about this a lot on the podcast. You know, we're used to this timetable where it's like, oh, a guy sprains an ankle, he's out 2 weeks. Well, he may only miss 2 weeks, but that injury is 6 months to a year of recovery, if you ever recover. You know, there are a lot of people who they get like a 3rd-degree ankle sprain, and it's just their ankle is going to be screwed forever. And you never get that stability back.
Yeah, I mean, well, now, I mean, at least when I was growing up, that was certainly the case. We didn't have these really cool ways to rehab and strengthen that joint again. So now, and they have, you know, a lot of advanced techniques for getting swelling out of there and all that stuff. His only concern is, did he tear any ligaments in there or whatnot? Because that's the real fear if it's really severe. But it didn't look like that. It looks like he just, you know, I bet you medically they're going to say, well, he didn't really do any more damage. You just, you know, you increase the swelling, you increase the pain, and that's just how much can you take, and how much, you know, what can you do to get over that?
Well, so what really concerned me was the second time he went down. When he went down in the heap, he actually grabs higher up, closer to his knee, right? Yeah. So like, you know, it obviously is a different. It's like I think it's a more severe injury than what he started with. I mean, I think that he not only re-aggravated something, I think he may be more injured. Okay. You know, a high ankle sprain, like I mean, I've had one. black and blue up to my knees. So
Yeah, well, I'm not a doctor, but we play one on Twitter.
that's right. That's
So we'll
right.
find out
Us
when
and
they-
everybody else.
Yes, so we'll see what happens, I guess, tomorrow. But then again, the Spurs will never tell us. I feel like we're not going to get any very clear details of what's going on. We'll see. But it's really sad because, they steal this one. And by the way, if he could have just played like another minute and a half, then I bet you the Spurs still win. They kind of hold on and at least get that, and then they know that they probably sit Kawhi then anyway. Well, he's injured because they got what they came for, one win, and then it's a different complexion. Now though, you're right. If he can't come back till Game 3, they're probably going to be down at least 2-0. If he's only 50%, then that's like 3-0, and then it's over.
Yeah, but I bet if you ask Pop, he would say that, even without Kawhi, they still need to be able to hold a lead. A 25-point lead. Like, you still need to be able to hold it.
Yeah.
So,
and they almost did. I mean, Simmons had a really good play. They showed some stuff like that they were doing okay. And I like what they have. DeJounte Murray had some moments where he looked pretty good. Jonathan Simmons,
where he looked too bad.
Yeah, and Simmons certainly didn't look intimidated. He was ready to own that.
I really think that those Pau Gasol minutes in the fourth quarter really killed him. And I just again, it's time to drink. If you're playing the B-Ball Breakdown Coach Dave podcast game, it's time to drink. Dwayne Dedmon needs to get some minutes. I just cannot understand it. When they needed a rebound on a free throw, get Dwayne Dedmon in there. He's 7 feet tall and he's a freak athlete. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Again, I don't know what he has done, but there's something happening.
Yes, I agree. And Powell got screwed like 3 times. Not even screwed. He screwed himself. He screwed the pooch 3 times in a row. Where like a couple where like it was a pick and roll, he doesn't jump out. I mean, he's so slow as it is that you have to be like 10 seconds ahead of the game then. And he doesn't jump out. Curry gets a 3. Then on the other side of the court, another pick and roll. And like even they're calling timeout, he still holds his hand up to say to like Coach Pop, look, I was contesting, but dude, you were about like 7 feet away from when Curry pulled. Then maybe after the ball was halfway to the basket, you kind of got near his hand to contest it. So, yeah, you can't have Powell play any fourth quarter minutes. It was a mistake. You're right. Like that was a big mistake on Pop's part. Yet he keeps doing it.
Yeah, and then I mean, obviously David Lee running the small ball lineups. Like, I don't know. Aldridge was bad down the stretch. Like,
he had a couple turnovers, man.
A lot has been said about him continuing. He was shooting. Yeah. The thing is that the baseline spin move is there for him a lot. The Warriors don't really bring help from the baseline that often.
Right.
They usually dig down from the wing, and so. You got to think that he should stop settling for some of these fadeaways, especially when they're not falling. I think he was like 2 of 7 on fadeaways tonight. And I know that's what he made a living on before. But if he's got a knee injury, like we've suspected, and the way he looks, that makes the fadeaway less reliable. Like you need to get some lift to be able to hit that fadeaway. It's part of why Kawhi's fadeaway is so incredible. So yeah, I don't know. There was some stuff. I mean. The Spurs still should have won this game, and the Warriors have to feel lucky that that Kawhi got hurt and that they were still able to come back even with Kawhi out. So both can be true, right? Like the Spurs were good and they were lucky.
Yeah, I mean, and there are things you can do to switch those weak side screens. Now, normally though, if you can get backdoor cuts, but they were very good on those switches, and they weren't going until they got tagged, and they were in good position. Generally, there was decent pressure on the ball to make it harder. But that's an adjustment I would suspect that the Warriors will overcome. I think that they're going to be able to find more of those backdoor cuts and if they do it in the right way. And I'm sure they're going to. Well, the only question left is, do you want to keep Powell in the game longer? Like, you don't attack him early so that Pop thinks, oh, okay, everything's okay. And then you get him when you need him, like in the fourth quarter, which is kind of what happened. But either way, if that's the case or not the case, whatever, they're going to go after Powell even more, and he's going to get. I mean, I want to kind of check how many minutes he had because it was 5 too many. But let's see here. You're right, because if Pau Gasol plays, he played 16 minutes. He really can play 12.
Yeah.
He had 5 points, 5 fouls, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, block, you know, he wasn't really doing much for them at all. So if he goes to the bench, and you know, or that goes to 12 minutes, who gets those extra minutes? I mean, Dedmon got a DNP. I guess it's going to be David Lee.
Yeah, and that's not great either. Although he was plus 15 tonight.
It's not good. No, he was good. David Lee was getting rebounds. He was active. He was not hurting them at all. In fact, look, yeah, plus 15. He was very good for them. So that's what I'm sure Pop's going to look at and be like, I think we're going to have to put Pau on the bench a little bit longer.
Yeah, and we'd be remiss if we didn't talk again about Manu Ginobili and how credible he's been.
He deserves a game ball. I wanted to give him a game ball. Had they won it, like it would have been because what he did.
Yeah, I don't know how he's doing it. It's insane that he's playing at this level, at this point in the season.
Yeah.
At his age, like he's got to come back for another year, right? Like we're at that point, right?
Wow, maybe, I don't know.
Let's
take a couple questions while we're here to finish off our show here.
I think he has.
Because I don't want to get too late. But throw a question out there on Periscope. Let's see what we have here, and we'll answer one. So as we talk a little bit more about Manu. But yeah, Manu could probably use a little bit of Harry's razors as well, because he could shave that dome and make it look really nice and really smooth. And
that's right. What promo code would he use?
That would be harrys.com/Coach Nick, and he'd get the free sample with 5 razors and shaving gel. But he actually needs the one for the head, which there exists, so that one he can get too. Is Manu a Hall of Famer? I mean, it's the first ballot, first minute he's available. Yeah.
They should actually change the rules and get him in there, the day after he retires.
Yes. Does JaVale have a place in this series? Yes, he does. I mean, Zaza is really frustrating, bad. And it's just because JaVale comes out and is not really focused that they don't give him another run. He got 5 minutes, though. JaVale needs to get 10 minutes just to see which JaVale is going to show up. Right?
Right, yeah. He was minus 11 in those 5 minutes, though. So he was out there during the worst part.
Which team has the most at stake in Tuesday's draft lottery? It's a great question.
Which team has what? I'm sorry.
Has the most at stake.
You broke up for me.
Oh, no problem. Which team has the most at stake for Tuesday's draft lottery?
Probably the
Lakers?
Probably the Lakers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because
they have the third.
If they're not top record? 3, yeah, and if someone wins the lottery, they lose their pick.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say them for sure. It would be, all the tanking for the last 3 years would almost be for naught, because they got a couple picks, so they're in decent shape. But I think all signs were pointing to like this was the draft they wanted, and is it going to happen? I doubt it, right? Because that's not how the way the league works, right, Dave? Yeah,
well, they don't have envelopes anymore, so
all right,
they can't hook them up,
right? Well. This brings us to the end of another wonderful podcast and Periscope Live show. Fantastic questions. We'll try and get to them on Twitter if you want to hit us up there. Dave at Coach Dave, do 4 with the number 4. And I'm always there at B-Ball Breakdown. And don't forget to check out my video I did today, LeBron versus Michael Jordan. Plus, we got merch that you'll see on that video. We're selling T-shirts. Awesome design with both LeBron and Michael on it. So thank you for joining us, Dave. Thank you for coming on and offering some awesome insights. This is a great show tonight. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, not a channel, we're a conversation. You win. You win, Dave?
All the time.